And welcome. Again, my name is Malcolm Ross, Vice President of Product Strategy for Appian, along with Karina, Director of Product Strategy, and Zita, Senior Product Manager, and you are at the Appian 22.2 Product Announcement Webinar. Before we get into the content of today's webinar, I'd like to first acknowledge the fantastic conference that we had at Appian World just recently in April. I'd like to thank everyone who was able to join us in person and virtually. It was fantastic seeing everyone in person. We had about 1,500 attendees down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Some of the great pictures that were taken down there. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to many future successful Appian Worlds as well, meeting you both in person, as well as distributing that content digitally to all those who cannot attend. And speaking of digital distribution of Appian World, I'd like to announce also that those recordings are now available at the following URL to watch all the resources and all the keynotes and session content from the most recent Appian World. If you missed us joining in person in Fort Lauderdale, the next opportunity for our Appian World event will be on May 1st and May 3rd, 2023 in San Diego. So hope to see you there coming up next year. But also with the Appian World Conference, we're happy to host the Appian World Live Build Challenge. Now, I'd first like to thank Laurel Aspland, Navaria Farnaz, Liam Carasaldio, Emmanuel Holm, Jake Salzman, and San Verahabahatla. I'd like to thank everyone for participating and having the bravery to do a live build on the Appian platform, building an application end-to-end in 1 hour in front of a huge audience that you can see here in the pictures. It's a great challenge, and thank you for participating. And also, for all those who applied, we had an overwhelming response for applications. There's going to be future opportunities coming up this year and, of course, the Appian World next year. But next, I'd like to congratulate, of course, Emmanuel Holm for taking home the $10,000 prize. If you don't know how the Live Build Challenge works, it is a winner-take-all challenge. So there's only going to be one winner who accomplishes all the goals, meets all the criteria in the least amount of time. And for this year, that was Emmanuel. Congratulations, a $10,000 prize he took home from Appian World. If you would like to check out the Appian World Challenge yourself and see if you have what it takes to maybe compete for a future competition, send a link right now to try it yourself, of course. In the Appian community environment, you can see that link also, community.appian.com/challenges. There's a quick link to actually see the entire Live Build Challenge and see if you can accomplish what Emmanuel was able to accomplish in just 1 hour. So go ahead and try it yourself if you like. Now, of course, as I mentioned before, there's going to be some future opportunities to engage with us. The first of which is going to be the Appian APJ. The Appian APJ Connected Possibilities Conference is going to be October 27th in Sydney, Australia. We certainly hope to see you there. As well as for those customers in Europe, we're announcing the Appian Europe Conference will be available on November 15th and 16th in London, United Kingdom. And for the London conference, that's going to be the next opportunity for another live build challenge. So stay tuned for updates there coming up. We will be opening up the registration for the live build challenge later this year to compete head-to-head in a competition in London, United Kingdom. Hope to see you there. So let's get into the meat of today's content. Of course, today we're going to be covering Appian 22.2, which is the second release of Appian for 2022. And of course, we had a previous release on March 4th, 22.1. Encourage you to check out the pre-release webinars, previous released webinars on that. And stay tuned for August and November this year when we expect to release 22.3 and 22.4. But specifically with Appian 22.2, we're going to have a release on May 27th, about 2 weeks from now. I expect to have available to you downloading the Appian 22.2 version for those self-managed customers. And if you are Appian Cloud customer, of course, you'll get that notification to schedule your upgrade to the latest release after May 27th of this year. Now, today we're going to be covering Appian process mining, our low-code capabilities around interfaces, development, low-code data, and automation, as well as our administration, cloud, and support updates, and finally, our community updates. But to begin with, of course, we're going to talk about the latest addition to the Appian product suite, which is going to be Appian process mining. And this is where I'd like to invite Karina, who's a recently joined Appian from the acquisition of Lana Labs, who is our Director of Product Strategy covering process mining. So pass it over to you, Karina.
Thank you, Malcolm. So let's dive into Appian Process Mining, the easiest way to analyze, improve, and monitor your business processes. In today's complexity of business operations, it can be hard to keep track of process performance, especially when it comes to rework, wasted time, bottlenecks, and compliance violations. These unwanted process deviations can hardly be discovered manually, and that's where Appian Process Mining steps in to help. From data preparation to process analysis and improvement, the Appian platform supports every step of your continuous improvement journey. And that journey starts with data. For process mining, we need an event log, which often requires connecting data from multiple IT systems. Our solution Mining Prep connects to your IT system and enables you to perform complex data transformations, even if you don't have in-depth technical knowledge, by using pre-configured transformation actions. In this release, we have made Mining Prep even easier for you. With the automatic API provisioning, you no longer need to manually copy your process mining API key to Mining Prep when transforming and loading event logs. Now, Mining Prep fills in the key for you automatically to help streamline your workflow between the two modules. Additionally, we have added a new replace values transformation action. This functionality has been split from the match columns transformation action to make choosing the correct action more clear. The revised match columns transformation action now allows you to add new columns, while the new replace values transformation action allows you to replace values in existing columns. Once we have prepared our data for mining, we can start the process mining analysis. Based on the event log data, Appian Process Mining automatically visualizes your business process and how it actually works in practice. You can then generate target models with built-in BPMN modeling tools and perform an automated conformance check that identifies all the unwanted deviations between your actual and target process. Besides the visualization and process models, deviations can also be analyzed with a variant view. And what's even more exciting, we can perform an automated root cause analysis to find the underlying reasons for process deviations and performance issues. Finally, you can monitor KPIs and the insights into your process with fully customizable no-code dashboards. And in 22.2, we have added a new monitoring capability, the Process Scorecard, that enables you to track, measure, and summarize performance trends across multiple processes and share these insights within your organization. A scorecard automatically assigns each process a score and status that corresponds to its performance against your custom case duration threshold. Together, these metrics let you know at a glance if you need to take action. And to get an even better idea on how to move from insight to action faster, please join me now for an actual demo of Appian Process Mining. Once the data is loaded into Appian Process Mining, we get a visualization of the first two main variants of our process. By using the variant slider, we can look at all of them. In this case, we have 15 variants of the procurement process that we are looking at here. What we can also do is adding some of the attribute data that we have as filters for the analysis. This way, we could look at the process also for a certain category only. By zooming in, we can see where we have potential bottlenecks in the process. We already see where rework loops are happening, so we have some insights into our process performance already from this very first view of the process discovery. What's also really nice is using the animation that lets us see how each and every single case is actually running through the process. This is often a really nice way to also showcase your analysis results from process mining analysis, as it is a very nice visualization in itself. But since we would like to focus on a more automated analysis, let's check out our automated conformance check. For this, we are choosing, maybe without the category filter here, we are choosing the first two main variants of our process, as this is coming very close to how our ideal process should look like. Now we can take this data as a basis to create a new target model from this. In our BPMN modeler, you can then also adjust the process model. For example, you might have some manual steps in your process that are not in your IT systems yet, but you would like to include it into the analysis. Then this is the way how to do it here. Simply include it into the analysis. And now when we save the model with the data, we see that we do not have a match for this step. So when we save this, we can now look at our target model, and we see the manual step here, but also we can now see all the deviations that are happening in this process. So we can see here where rework is happening, and also where steps are being skipped, for example, and also all those unwanted paths that have been taken. The variant view offers another way on how to look at these deviations, and also you can really drill down into each and every single case here to get some more details on what has happened. Also, then we can take a look at all those deviations in the form of a list, and for the automated root cause analysis, we are choosing in this case the deviation that has the highest frequency. So the conduct small business review and coordination has been skipped 140 times. And now we would like to run our machine learning algorithm in order to show us whether we can find some reasons for this kind of deviation. And when we're looking at the result here, we can see that this deviation is connected with a combination of the attributes of the region APAC and a cost associated higher than $1 million. So this is already a very good insight that can now be investigated further and then looked at more in the analysis. Also, what we can do now is creating some dashboards. For this, we can either say, okay, we're maybe interested in the number of events that we have in the process, so we can very easily add this kind of information here. Maybe we also would like to have an overview of our general case duration. So you see that it's very easy to set up these kinds of dashboards without using any code. You can even have the model connected here in the dashboard, which is nice when you're just maybe making summaries of an analysis and someone is not necessarily looking at the whole analysis. Then you can have the process model visualized here in the dashboard as well. And then last but not least, we were talking about process scorecards. And with those, you can now create a high-level overview of how your processes are performing against case duration KPIs. You can choose the way how you're displaying this kind of information, and each process is being scored automatically based on your custom performance targets. And this way you can also graph historical trends for process scores over a configured period of time. If you would like to get started with process mining yourself, please go to Appian Community, take the training, and try our free process mining on Community Edition. We look forward to your feedback. Happy mining, and with that, back to Malcolm.
Cool. Thank you, Karina. That was great, and look forward to getting everyone's input on their use of Appian process mining. Let's continue with our release information, though, with Appian 22.2 with our next section on our Appian interface and interface capabilities. The first of which applies to some sale components, specifically the header content layout component and records They now offer a parameter allowing you to set the header as a fixed element. This allows you to give more navigation control or define custom navigations. And as you can see in the screenshot here, allows you to fix the specific header with navigation menus while the user is able to scroll up and down. So a simple parameter they can find inside of there for record views and for the header content layout control. Now, the next area we also have in our sale interface improvements, more exact column widths. Now, you might have been familiar with this if you've ever worked with the column or the grid control or the side-by-side layout, which give very granular controls in the width of specific columns. This same methodology of having a 1x, a 10x methodology of setting more granular controls is now also available for the general column control for laying out columns. So you can simply use this to define the number or weightings of each column should have with more granular control for your specific design layouts. In addition, the org chart component now offers a parameter to show total counts. This allows you, when you're displaying a organizational structure of employees and employee relationships, allows you to not only show the number of direct relationship counts, but also indirect relationship counts if you have a complex hierarchy. So again, this only applies to the org chart component for showing employee relationships of users inside the corporate system of Appian. And again, a simple checkbox there to check, say, show total users, which you'll see show side by side with a number of direct and indirect users. In addition, over the past several releases, we added accessibility features to our charting components. These accessibility features allow colorblind individuals to more easily distinguish different areas of a chart by showing chart patterns inside the environment. Now, in previous releases, we applied this to the column chart, bar charts, pie charts, donut charts, and now this is also available in the line chart, meaning that all chart patterns inside Appian support these accessibility improvements. As a reminder for a user to enable these accessibility features, they go into their user profile settings and specifically click on the accessibility tab and enable that chart fill pattern on the accessibility area to improve the readability of charts for those who might have trouble distinguishing colors. Now, also in the sale record picker component, we now support complex filters for filtering out exactly which records should be available inside of the picker. So you see an example of the record picker here on the right-hand side, which is a simple kind of type ahead picker, but I want that to type ahead by selecting specific records from the Appian system. Now inside this record picker, you can use the query logical expression with the operators of like and or to combine multiple filters together. So you see in the expression code in this screenshot example, I'm combining both a filter of the mechanic as well as a filter of the status to understand which records are only completed by Mike the mechanic. So now this gives you more targeted filtering when using the record picker component. Now also for general sale user interface capabilities, we've improved the overall end user experience when uploading files to be 25% faster. This applies to the file upload component. And again, there's nothing you need to do behind the scenes. It's a general performance improvement to the core system. You'll notice that application files are uploaded and processed faster, and the virus scan is also faster as well. And again, you simply apply this by upgrading to 22.2, and all your file uploads will be about 25% faster. Next, of course, we have some new interface patterns. If you're building into Appian for the first time or thinking about your next project, it's always important to go to that Patterns tab on the palette inside the Appian Interface Designer. We're always adding new patterns here to give you inspiration to your next product designs. Now, there's 3 new patterns of the Appian 22.2 release. The first one is an event timeline with a detailed view. Next is a milestone with a vertical layout, milestone component. And probably the third one and most important is a generic task report. Now, many of us who are building process-based applications often need to build custom task reports for our end users. Now there's a pre-built pattern, simply drag and drop and put in that task report, and then stitch it up to the specific process information you want to give the specific task you want to display inside that component. A nice way to accelerate your overall interface designs. And speaking of accelerating interface design, we've also made it easier from the Sites Designer to quickly create interfaces. This is a concept you'll see permeating through the Appian product, both historically and into the future, of what we call forward flow. It's the core of our low-code design philosophy, which makes it easy for a developer to seamlessly transition to the next thing they want to create without having to go back to the main IDE console. So now inside the Appian Sites Designer, you see a little plus button there when I have an interface type to simply quickly create the interface directly from the sites. So if I'm building from a site-centric manner, I can easily build all the necessary components through this forward flow. Now, going into our portals architecture, if you haven't checked this out, really encourage you to check out the 22.1 webinar where we had the GA release of our portals capability. But portals are the new front end for Appian to your anonymous or B2C users. So now you can take interfaces and publish them to anonymous users that incorporate business rules and integrations all inside the Appian context in a separately scalable microservice architecture. Now, to accelerate your designs here, one of the new things we have with portals is a new interface example. So this interface example you might have seen featured at Appian World recently when we were talking about portals. Now it's easily baked into the interface designer tool to give you some inspiration of how you might build your next portal experience, and also look at how we recommend best practices in building portals by looking at this use case example. Now, as a reminder as well, you can always check out these latest features on Appian Community Edition, and we're happy to announce that portals is now also available on Community Edition. When you sign up for Appian Community Edition, which is our free tier of the Appian software, you can publish up to 2 portal interfaces for that specific Community Edition instance. And all portals that you publish will have a Community Edition footer disclosing that this is kind of the free tier of the Appian product. But it's a great way, if you haven't played with it yet, go ahead to your community.appian.com profile page and spin up your own personal Community Edition and go ahead and check out publishing your own portal using that example that we see right here is to maybe rapidly capture an insurance quote to anonymous users. Moving on, let's talk about development capabilities with the Appian product being introduced inside Appian 22.2. And to help me with this, I want to invite Zita to basically go through some of the content that we now have with the Appian demo design experience. So go ahead, Zita.
Thank you, Malcolm. Hi, I'm Zita, a senior product manager for Appian Engineering, and I'm excited to introduce you to the new and improved Appian Designer. In 22.2, we're excited to give you an enhanced developer experience at both the environment and application levels. From navigating through Designer to creating new apps to onboarding onto existing apps, you'll be faster at everything. The moment you sign on to Designer, you'll notice a whole new look and feel. On the starting page, jump straight into creating or importing an app, or find an existing application with convenient search and filters. In the new navigation pane, you can easily switch between various Designer views. 22.2 has also made it easier to connect with your fellow low-code developers and refine your craft. Follow the links in the right pane to common destinations in Appian Community. There, you can participate in discussions, explore training courses, view documentation and tutorials, and browse the AppMarket. You can use our streamlined process to create a new application, such as a net zero carbon reporting app. Appian helps you follow best practices in setting up your app by letting you define a prefix, automatically creating baseline groups and folders, and ensuring your app security is configured. Inside the app you just created, you'll land directly on the new Explore view. Once there, Appian provides guidance by recommending objects that developers commonly use as starting points. You can create a record type to pull in your data from multiple sources, or create a process model to translate your business workflows into automated processes. Or you can create a site that focuses on the best possible experience for your end users. Now imagine that you've been building your app for a while, long enough that it's time to onboard a new developer. Explaining the app's architecture and design takes time and takes you away from your own work. This is where the Explore view really shines. This dynamic, self-documenting view surfaces the key objects that power the application's main user interfaces, data, and process workflows. It provides immediate insights into the app's structure, deployment packages, and supporting documentation. With the Explore view, your teammates can start onboarding themselves. Let's take a closer look at this view. Here are this app's 2 sites. You can scroll through the preview images of each page, or launch a page's underlying object by simply clicking its name. Below the sites, you'll find the record types and process models. These objects are at the core of your app. They represent business data from across your enterprise and the actions you can take on it. Then, connected systems and web APIs are highlighted, so you can understand the landscape of integrated data coming in and out of your environment. For each object throughout the view, handy icons signal important information to help you better understand the application's design. Here, you can navigate quickly through object relationships. For example, with just a few clicks, you can drill from a record type into its views or actions and directly open the underlying process models or interfaces. In the information pane, you can create a package to align with your team's DevOps processes as you start building. Or you can instantly pick up where you left off by accessing recently modified packages. From here, you can also manage users' group membership or review and update object security in bulk using the security summary. And lastly, you can add or view in-app documentation and links that capture business context to speed up knowledge sharing. With these latest changes, you'll enjoy a more guided, intuitive experience getting started and collaborating on apps. Onboarding onto an application or helping a teammate to onboard will be easier and faster than ever. As a developer working on a project, you can spend the most time doing what you really care about, building your application. Now, back to you, Malcolm.
Cool. Thank you, Sita. We're really looking forward to getting that new developer experience in the hands of all of you, coming up with the Appian 22.2 release coming up on May 27th. And again, looking forward to any feedback as well. Really focus on the productivity of all of our developers, making sure you have everything you need to rapidly develop at the tip of your fingers. So look forward to getting to it. You can, of course, spin it up on Appian Community Edition starting with the 27th of May. And feel free to provide feedback via Appian Community. Now let's move on to our next section around our low-code data architecture with some important improvements inside of low-code data. Now, low-code data has been probably one of the most rapidly adopted features that we've been released over the past year. Really excited to see hundreds and hundreds of customers now taking advantage of it. And we have some important updates that's going to make that even easier with a new records syncing architecture. The first of which is, of course, faster data syncs. Now, data syncing is essentially taking that data fabric as you connect data from different relational databases, Salesforce, and combine it together in a virtual data model. We synchronize that data from multiple locations into the Appian product. That data sync now with Appian 22.2 is 2 times faster than it was in previous releases, making it easier to fetch those large data sizes into the Appian product. In addition, we've improved the syncing behavior with a new Sync Data Smart service. So prior to this release, we made it easy to keep your data fresh by automatically syncing any data changed by select smart services in Appian. Now with the Sync Record Smart service, you can sync data changed by any system, third-party system, store procedures, or any other external system. The Sync Record Smart service is supported by all record types with data sync enabled, which allows you to sync your record types more frequently, even your service back record types. So how this works is you essentially model this into your processes and say at this certain point in time, I want to synchronize my data. So you can say, well, when I know updates are occurring in Salesforce, go ahead and synchronize my Salesforce record type. And you can also target this to specific identifiers. So if you want to limit that to a specific set of identifiers, you can provide that restriction right here as well. So it's a much more powerful way to, rather than doing, say, nightly syncs at a specific time, synchronize your data whenever you want, and even limit it to a specific set of data types in the scope that you want as well. Next is our ability to generate web APIs to sync records. So this is a great feature which allows you to have external systems trigger actions in the Appian environment to force a sync of specific record items. Now, for example, I might have a Salesforce environment again, and when I update a record in Salesforce, well, I know exactly what record I want updated in Appian. So let's go ahead and set up a webhook to one of Appian's web APIs to force a synchronization of that record. Now, the creation of that web API we've made super simple inside the record type designer. You simply choose that create web API action, and it's a simple intuitive wizard to walk you through the configuration. So you hit generate web API, give it the endpoint name that you want and associate with a specific application, and then go ahead and hit finish. We automatically recognize the structure of that record and automatically generate the appropriate web API to support that syncing behavior. Next, we have some specific capabilities when you create custom record fields using a date difference configuration. So custom record fields allow me to modify a data model with custom calculations and manipulations. So this one specifically applies the date difference when you create a custom record field off of comparing two dates, which now allows you to calculate based on today's date. So this will be a continuous calculation. As the today changes, it will automatically recalculate those, making sure I can use this as a custom field to automatically change based on as the calendar changes. Now, in addition, you also expanded this to also do calculations based on related record types. So if I have sub-record types that I want to compare maybe when a prospect was created inside an opportunity record versus when the account was created inside a maybe Salesforce environment, I can do these calculations across data models, across records as well inside the custom record field area. Now, record types is also graduated to a full designer experience with native versioning, comparing, and rollback. So those of you who've been actively using records will certainly appreciate this, that in normal behavior, like all the other design objects, you simply go to the drop-down properties configuration to see all the historical versions of your record types. We've also improved this with a one-click to compare the latest version to this. And you can also, of course, do side-by-side comparisons of your record types, as well as roll back to earlier versions of the record types and the data model that was represented in that earlier version as well. Now, along with this, we've actually improved the version compare experience across all designers, specifically in two areas. That one-click compare to the latest version is now available in every single object with versioning, as well as the ability to have that fixed header component I talked about earlier has been applied here to always be aware of which version you're comparing to. As you can see here, version 3 to the latest, and that header stays in place. So I always have that context exactly what I was looking at. Now, in addition, a few updates to our query editor experience. Now, the query editor is our no-code experience for querying these complex data relationships across your data fabric. Now, this one specifically, when I launch the query editor, you have a new tab here to visualize the record type relationships. This is really helpful when you want to initiate a new query to understand the scope of relationships that this object has with other objects and what elements I potentially can query from the no-code query editor. In addition, it's very common for when you launch a query editor to say, well, I don't really know exactly how I want to manipulate this query. And I don't know when I launch a query editor, maybe what inputs or dynamic inputs I need to give it. So now in the upper right-hand corner of the query editor, you'll see a rule inputs button. At any time while editing the query, I can go ahead and add a rule input to go ahead and say, well, I need to filter this dynamic value, and then use that rule input instantly when configuring filters or other types of data manipulations inside that query right here. So a little productivity boost when you want to have those dynamic creations of rule inputs while working inside the query editor. Now, finally, with the query editor, it's very common as well that we want to do aggregations across our data set. So with one click and in a no-code design experience, you simply say, create some aggregations. I can define the groupings and the measures right here in a no-code experience. Simply see all the different elements I can choose from in that drop-down for the grouping fields right here. Choose color, and then I want to measure the colors. I want to have the sum of all the colors on their product IDs and test the query and very easily create those custom aggregations for analytical reporting across your record data. Now, specifically with measuring that record data, we've improved the Appian query record type function to not require groups when performing measures. So if I simply want to look at that data set and say, well, I'd love to sum all the costs of my maintenance, I don't need to group by something first. I can simply directly input a measure using the aggregation fields and then use measures, Appian measure. And simply, I would like to sum the maintenance cost field. It's going to optimize that in the back end for doing high-speed calculations. So again, that's the value of our synced record data architecture. Is we automatically optimize that data architecture for the design experience that you want behind the scenes. And you can go ahead and apply that measure without applying a grouping. Now, specifically for records that are not synced, we've also improved the performance when you want to only receive the total count. And we do this by supporting a new configuration in the paging info configuration with batch size equals 0. So again, this is specifically, you'll see performance improvements when querying data from non-synced records. So this is data that I need to go directly to the source of the data using the query records function. And then when I use batch size 0, we're going to optimize that SQL, say, query that goes behind the scenes to only receive the total row count of that specific database. And again, that's going to be much faster than receiving like a single data element or some other limited set. So here I can see the returns that I want is that total count. In this example, 504. Now, moving on to our low-code automation capabilities, we have a lot of updates around RPA, IDP, and general workflow and integration. First of which is our Appian RPA capabilities. Now, a very common use case for Appian RPA is to configure RPA to go across third-party web browser applications. So if I need to navigate a website, we use something called the Selenium WebDriver to automate that web navigation. When I configure that now in Appian 22.2, Appian will automatically locate and load the appropriate WebDriver for the Google Chrome, Firefox, or Microsoft Edge browsers. So it's a great productivity boost. If you ever built a robotic process automation for a web browser, it's a bit of a pain to go navigate and find the appropriate WebDriver. Now in Appian 22.2, simply go to the settings configuration area. You'll see a new checkbox there. It says allow Appian to provide Selenium WebDrivers. Appian will automatically look at and identify the operating system and the browser version, locate the appropriate WebDriver, and load that with no touch. It'll automatically taken care of behind the scenes to be ready to automate any browser interactions. In addition, Appian RPA has some extended Windows automation controls. So when going across a Windows computer, we now support some other elements for the interact with element action, specifically around lists, tabs, and tree items. So if you want to check this out, again, simply go to maybe a Community Edition or Appian RPA Design Console. If you type in the palette interact, you'll see a new element there called interact with element with some drop-down controls around the control type where you see exactly what I interact with, maybe a tree item, a list, or a tab I need to interact with on a client-server Windows application, not a browser here. For navigating the Appian RPA low-code design console, there's two great new features. First, the ability to expand and collapse all the sections, making it easy to see all the actions inside of RPA design, or collapse it to see overall summary. And second, a search ability to search all the configurations of each Appian RPA design. So in this example, I search for the word Google, instantly takes me to the open browser action where I'm opening up Google inside of there. Great productivity tools to quickly find the right thing you're looking to modify inside an existing Appian RPA design. Next, with Appian RPA, we have the ability to disable resources on console restarts. A predictable resource environment is crucial to the successful executions. A robotic process can't execute successfully if it encounters conditions on the resource the robot doesn't expect or know how to handle. With this release, you can choose the default connectivity of a resource after an unexpected console shutdown. This way, a robotic process won't start on a resource that has not been cleared, giving you time to confirm the resource environment is ready. Also, with the Appian 22.2 release, we have some great performance and scaling enhancements. You can grow your automation practice with confidence with this release by the nature of it including performance enhancements for robotic processes that run across multiple resources. Your RPA environment can now support more resources without sacrificing any runtime performance for a given execution. Again, great for those customers who want to do enterprise scale RPA with maybe hundreds of robotic resources going across a single Appian Cloud environment. And also, specifically for our intelligent document processing, some important improvements in the accuracy of content that has handwriting, watermarks, and other visual noise. We've upgraded this release of our IDP capabilities to automatically detect this type of content from unstructured documents and map it into structured content elements. So this upgrade is automatic for all Appian Cloud customers who apply to the specific IDP conditions. This is not yet available for some specific cloud customers. So if you have like a more advanced security configuration and you choose to use this, you can go in your admin console and enable this for your specific cloud environments. But for most cloud customers, this will be automatically available. And you see an example below of what we're talking about is handwriting recognition, watermarks, or other types of visual noise distortions. Appian will automatically see through that, identify the content using our artificial intelligence, and map it to your structured record data. Now, when it comes to integrations, we have an important announcement coming from DocuSign. For those customers who are integrating with DocuSign, DocuSign has announced removal of basic authentication support on October 5th, 2022. Again, this is a DocuSign deprecation, not an Appian deprecation. But to ensure that all of our customers can continue working with DocuSign, we want to support the latest authentication standards that DocuSign is recommending. And this is a JWT grant. So designers who are using DocuSign with basic authentication should modify their connected system to use the new JWT grant by that date of October 5th. If you'd like to read more about this, you can simply refer to DocuSign's documentation for information on specifically what is a JWT grant. We see the example here with 22.2. You'll see that as a new authentication type, specifically just for the DocuSign connected system. Now, when it comes to our workflow updates, two really nice updates. The first of which is a recategorization, a minor recategorization of our workflow versus automation services. Now, when we give better clarity of exactly what we're talking about, workflow is the idea of orchestrating work. So assigning tasks to humans and things like gateway structures, which define routing structures, events, and general activities like script nodes and sub-processes. We consider that workflow. Automation is things that are going to occur in an automatic fashion, like robotic process automations, integrations, updating data sets, automatically creating documents. That's going to be categorized in this new category called Automation Smart Services. Now, another important update to the palette also includes the ability to add objects directly from the search bar. So this is not just adding things from the palette, but I can actually search the entire library of integrations, interfaces, and other processes from the palette. So in this example, you can see when I search for an integration to Best Buy, I simply drag and drop it, and it automatically uses the appropriate integration node and pre-configures it to that specific integration service. So making it super easy to discover and reuse components across your entire global repository and instantly lay them out inside of an Appian process model and all pre-configured, ready to go. So in that example, I drag and drop a user interface. Of course, it knows a user interface is designed for end user, so it'll use the user input node. And it will automatically map all the rule inputs of that interface to the appropriate process variables completely automatically. So great productivity boost for discovering how we can quickly create those models. Now, moving on to our administration, cloud, and support updates with 22.2, the first of which is our plugins capability. So when you go to the Appian administration console, you might be familiar with the plugins configuration tab here. From that plugins configuration tab, you can easily filter and find all your plugins, but we added a new filter control to see the version status, specifically to see which ones have been no longer listed in the AppMarket or have been deprecated, or that there is a new version of that plugin available. So you can quickly choose that version status filter right there, and as well as identify through the icon, that little refresh icon, whether there is a new version for a specific plugin available. So again, a little helper for your administrators to make sure that all your plugins are up to date and using the latest versions. Also, we now support IBM DB2 version 11.5 database. Prior to Appian 22.2, we support 11.1. So any customers using IBM DB2 recommend upgrading to 11.5. We support this across Linux, Unix, or Windows environments. And in similar fashion, we've also upgraded the JDBC driver for Oracle database customers. So for Appian Cloud only, this applies to using now the 21.5 JDBC driver for the Oracle database. This is upgraded automatically behind the scenes. Again, want to just make sure you're aware of the latest JDBC driver that is being used with the supported versions of Oracle for Appian Cloud. And finally, I'd like to jump into Appian Community. We have some really exciting updates, and the first of which is some new in-product learning capabilities. So in-product learning, I think is best explained if I play this short video here to give you an idea of what that in-product learning experience is. So one moment while I tee this up. So if that wasn't clear, our in-product learning for Appian Community Edition is specifically designed for developers and designers. It's going to guide you through how to build applications in the Appian product with pop-ups and guided navigation. So again, if you're not familiar with the Appian Design Time experience or want to get ramped up quickly to the latest features of Appian, check out Appian Community Edition. This will be exclusive currently to Appian Community Edition to help developers rapidly learn the new features of Appian, as well as new developers help them build their first application on the Appian platform. So going on, of course, the next with Community Edition is also helping our Spanish and Japanese language customers. So Appian Community Edition offers these welcome pages, landing pages, and other helpers to guide you through the design experience and welcoming you to the Appian community. All these interfaces are now available in native language for Spanish and Japanese. And we have future plans to translate additional videos, emails, and other material to guide all these other language speakers through learning the Appian tool. And finally, with Appian Community Edition, for many of you who joined us at Appian World, you might have noticed the Net Zero Carbon application. This is going to be a new learning application as a default app to help you learn how to build across the Appian platform. It has great design tips, as well as great examples of what you can learn from to build your next application. So I encourage you, when you sign up for Appian Community Edition, you'll get this fully functional, universal learning application. They don't even not only get the end user experience, but as well can dig behind the scenes to see how records are designed, interfaces, processes, and learn from to guide your own development experience. And finally, with Appian Community, I'd like to congratulate our Solution Success Award winners for the Appian AppMarket, Appsino, PwC, and Wipro. Thank you so much for your contributions. Wipro had a fantastic application for EUC remediation framework. It won because of the license revenue generation in the last 12 months with the strongest performing revenue contribution for Appian. Lots of great customers onboarding for that. PwC won for the Interactions Hub application, which for the most deals that closed in the last 12 months of new customers signing up with Interactions Hub. It specifically helps global life sciences and pharmaceutical companies manage highly regulated interactions with healthcare professionals and healthcare organizations in a more streamlined, documented, and auditable fashion, reducing manual work and improving compliance. And finally, Appsino for their ESG and sustainability solution. It was the first market-ready cross-industry solution in Appian's new core solution focus area. Appsino's ESG and sustainability solution helps companies across all industries automate the end-to-end environmental, social, and governance data collection, materiality assessment, and reporting with strategic guidance on ESG standards and compliance. So congratulations to all those AppMarket award winners for solution success. Encourage everyone to check it out at the Appian Application Marketplace. And thank you all for joining the Appian 22.2 product announcement webinar. I look forward to seeing you at the upcoming releases in August with Appian 22.3 and November with 22.4.